into the vortex.
Hello and welcome to TimeRotorTalks, an all-new podcast series where we discuss all things Doctor Who. Today we're going to be discussing Season 1, Episode 3 and 4, so that's Boom and 73 Yards. My name's Max and this is my friend Ben, and yeah, that's what we're going to be doing today. So Indeed. Boom and 73 Yards are definitely two interesting ones, because when we were talking about them in the last review, we did sort of say that this would be quite an interesting episode for...
Yeah.
Also, I do apologise because I do currently have COVID, so if I sound a bit weird, that'll be
Yeah,
why.
I'm also ill, so basically we've just got the flu.
Yeah.
Prepared to die.
The opening scene.
Yeah, you can start us off if you want.
Yeah. So, I quite like the opening scene. I think that...
Like the cold
I
open.
think that the cold open's nice.
Yeah.
It starts with the two soldiers, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it's nice to have that because it kind of just sets up the scene, considering the whole episode is literally set in one place. Well, most of it. It's nice to have that sort of introduced to you through other characters.
Yeah, and I was definitely surprised when Virada Sethu turned up.
Yeah, I like how they kept that as a
season
secret.
2.
Yeah, I like how they kept it as a secret. Like, she's playing a different character now, as she will next year, but still the same actress. So it's interesting.
Yeah. The only thing is that one set that only appears in the cold open. You know, the one I'm talking about where it's like...
like where
got
they
loads of stairways. And,
yeah, they should have used that again at the end.
Their base. Yeah, I mean, for such a massive set, like, I watched Doctor Who Unleashed on Boom, and the set is absolutely humongous.
Yeah, the detail
is so
is amazing
massive
as well.
Yeah, and
bit underused.
Yeah, they just should have used it a little bit more.
That comes onto the main issue of this series, is they kind of rush the endings a little bit, and that could have just been used at the end. Like, he could have just taken... The Doctor could have taken them back to there, and then you could have got that set used again. It's kind of just...
I feel like with that set, you could have used it in the ending with, as you say, the Doctor could have taken them back.
Yeah.
But I feel like they weren't the only ones fighting in that war, so maybe they could have... maybe the Doctor could have sort of declared that the war is over or something similar to that.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean. That's
a good point, actually. It's similar to the Doctor's daughter, where he's like telling the Half and the Hugh, like, the soldiers, like, this is over kind of thing. That would have been quite nice to see at the end of this episode. But we should probably go a bit more chronologically, as you were saying, and starting go from the start to end. But yeah, the start was good. I think,
I mean... The effects when the guy steps on the mine and then he blows up.
It is really good.
It is good. You can definitely tell that the budget's increased with this episode in particular, considering that they built an entire quarry inside Bardolph Studios, which is quite impressive. Really.
And it's good how there wasn't really any spoilers or leaks, because obviously they filmed it all in the studios, so I had no idea what to expect. But again, in terms of the actual episode, the cinematography was really good on the most part. And I mean, that's kind of, for the whole series, the general directing is pretty spot on. So it's not much point of talking about it too much, because it's usually good. But I think the main thing that stood out for me was just the script. And I mean, it's Moffat's writing, his first time writing since 2017. And he's coming back, obviously, this year again. But I think you could really tell it was Moffat, because when I was watching it with my family, I was like, I could just imagine 12 and Clara in this scenario, because of the way he's just writing them, like very poetic, if you know what I mean.
But the way that Ncuti talks and the way that 15 acts in this episode in particular is very 12th Doctor.
It is. It really is.
The lines and stuff about religion and things like that.
Yeah, like capitalism, all of that stuff. It's very like Moffat-y and 12th Doctor, which was, my favourite era. Not saying it was the best, but my favourite. So, I think it's nice to have something different, especially when you've just gone from 2 episodes where the Doctor's, on the most part, having fun. The Devil's Court has dark themes, but he is still having quite a lot of fun in a lot of it. Whereas this episode is the opposite, and it's nice to have that sort of dark tone. What
were your thoughts on the you know how the TARDIS just lands and then the Doctor just runs out and straight into trouble.
Well, I mean,
what were your thoughts on that? Because that was quite controversial, just because people said that he was being really careless, and that's not really how the Doctor usually is.
It was a little bit kind of like Moffat writing whatever he needs so the plot can happen. But I do think it doesn't. I didn't notice it, if you know what I mean. Like, I can see what you mean when you bring it up, but it's not obviously like stupid. I think that beginning bit's fine. I mean, yeah, he runs out carelessly, but the Doctor's always a bit careless, like from time to time.
Yeah, he is.
Like, he's never learned to just not, stick by the TARDIS. Think about the amount of episodes where he's like, "Oh, the TARDIS is gone. I can't get it back." It's like he's always careless, or she. So I think that's just kind of the character sometimes.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, I think the building of I think the idea of the Doctor on the mine is a really good idea, just because of how original it is. Like, I know it happened in Genesis of the Daleks, but that was only for like 2 minutes.
Yeah, I think that's what I mean. The best thing about this episode, realistically, is the script and the idea and the general dialogue. I'm gonna go on to a negative though. The child. I know you keep rinsing me for saying I hate child acting, but we've got to talk about Splice. We've got to talk about Splice. I'm sorry, but she starts off in the beginning, right? In the cold open, pretty mature. I'd say she's about 10 or 11, right? She's being a bit sarky, pretending she's brushing her teeth. Then when the Doctor's on the landmine, and she's like, trying to ask where her dad is, she uses, this is going to make me sound like an English student, which, well, you are, but she uses quite infantile language and saying like, "Oh, where's daddy, blah, 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 blah," and it's just like, it just doesn't fit who she was presented as 15 minutes before. She suddenly turns into like a 6-year-old when it's clearly like an 11-year-old playing her. And then the whole episode, she's just like, "Oh, where's dad? Oh, let's look at the pictures of the stuff we did." You've got to admit, she was like just not needed. She was needed for the plot, but she wasn't needed.
I think if you actually I think that entire thing gets solved if you just get a younger actor to do it.
Yeah, just have a 7-year-old. She was quite clearly, at least, I can look it up if you want, but I can guarantee you she was definitely over like 10 years old.
I don't think it was a problem with the actress. I think it was just a problem with
the writing.
Well, yeah, I think just if you're going to have an actress who's 10, then you need to present them as 10. And I don't think
she was not presented as a 10-year-old after the first 5 minutes. That's what I just got confused at. I was like, how has this actually been like put through? That's like something you do in a draft. Like, and that kind of brings me on again to kind of just the general stuff in this era. Is a lot of stuff is kind of getting overlooked that I'm like, how can you not see this is just not right? For instance, a lot of the stuff in Space Babies and things like that.
Yeah, I suppose so. But even so, I think
it doesn't spoil the episode. I'm just saying her character annoys me. That's just kind of it, really. I had to bring out the child acting joke because I always take.
But something I did like that sort of came out of that was the idea of the hologram of the father being sort of presented as like a friendly ghost, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, the hologram stuff was cool.
Yeah, it was kind of. It was very Moffat, obviously, but it was done quite well, I think, especially in the end when he appears as the hologram, as sort of as like a guardian AI. Angel type thing. Yeah, and I just thought that was nice. It's just good way to end the episode.
Yeah, all of that stuff is good. The tension in the middle is great. Like, I think out of all of them watching it when it was aired, like the first time, I had the most fun watching Boom purely because I just didn't know what was going to happen. I'm not saying the other ones weren't fun, but this is like the most tense episode. I think the ending is a bit rushed. There's a good 10 minutes after Ruby dies where just kind of nothing happens until that other guy dies, and then it's like, oh, we're all gonna die now. It's just a bit kind of flat. It's just not when if you actually rewatch it and like just as soon as Ruby dies, count every minute and just tell me what happens. It's really not a lot. Like, nothing really happens other than just like talking. and it's more just kind of like you've only got 45 minutes. If you're going to have a lot of talking, it's the ending just felt then a bit rushed because it was like, oh, AI, it was a virus. Ruby, I'm alive now, and then boom, we're going to leave.
I think I'm going to slightly disagree with you there, just simply because I feel like a lot of the dialogue are, admittedly, I wasn't a huge fan of Ruby dying. I kind of felt it was a bit like
it was a bit overkill, if you pardon.
Yeah, well done. But I think after that, the conversations that Mundy and the Doctor have, and as you say, nothing happens, but I think that's necessary. I think
the
things that the Doctor and Mundy
good.
talk about, like religion and faith, and the fact that there are no I can't remember the name of the villains who weren't there.
Castarian. No, that's the planet.
Yeah, Castarians.
I just feel like maybe the ambulance could have done a bit more in regards to the big twist, because it just felt like they were just there to kill them, if you know what I mean, or like to, you know.
Yeah, I suppose you could have had the ambulance sort of influence the Doctor in a way that he actually realises.
Yeah, because the Doctor just kind
of
he just figures it out, and it just feels a bit like I would have liked to have seen an influence, I think, for that. But again, the reason I'm trying to be critical is because there isn't tons to critique. It is a pretty solid, it's a solid episode. I'm trying to be critical because that's the point. I don't want to be like, oh, Moffat's great, 10 out of 10. It's not a 10 out of 10, but it is.
Moffat is great,
good.
By the way.
Moffat is great. I do think it was a very solid episode, like it as a, you know, in general. There's stuff that I don't like about it, but that's the same for every episode of this series. There is, as I said last time, there isn't a 10 out of 10. So
no,
I mean, unless
this episode, it's one of the better ones out of the series as a whole, though.
Yeah, I'd say it could quite easily be top 3.
Yeah, definitely. I think this was the one episode that didn't cause any discourse online. Which
true,
kind of says a lot, really.
Yeah.
I mean, Doctor Who fans are always complaining about something.
Yeah, they are always complaining. But
I feel like this was the episode that had
the strongest reaction.
It had one of the least things wrong with it, I'd say.
Yeah. There isn't tons wrong with it. If you make Splice's character a bit better, maybe give it 5 more minutes runtime, it could have just bulked out the ending a bit. Like we were talking about earlier, going back to the, you know, encampment might have been quite a nice scene.
I suppose that might have been a nice scene, but I don't think you need an extra 5 minutes. I thought that
an extra 3 minutes there. I don't know, just a couple minutes, and I think it'd be fine. But it was
the ending
really
was good though. I do think it was one of my favourite parts of the episode. Just, you know, when Splice is like he's not gone, he's just dead.
Yeah, no, that bit there was really nice.
But the fact that Ruby also addresses that and she says that's like, you know, that's sweet and all, but he is actually dead. Like, just bringing that back to reality a little bit is kind of something that Moffat doesn't actually do that often. Usually if he's saying something poetic and nice, he'll just say it and then move on. But he doesn't. He brings it back to reality, and the Doctor sort of acknowledges that.
I completely agree.
I like that.
I think Moffat was in one of his strongest elements here. I mean, mainly because he probably had quite a few years to think about this script, but it just felt nice. It's just a really good episode. There are things wrong with it, but I think if we, in terms of the tier list, I think it's certainly going to go high.
Yeah, I think this episode has a lot of things going for it. The CGI is great, the directing's great. Shooting was bloody brilliant.
Yeah, Shooting does define
his acting. This for a lot of people, it wasn't for me, but for a lot of people, it was his
like
his I Am the Doctor moment.
I don't think he had like a significant I Am the Doctor moment like 11 did in the 11th hour, but I think for him it was, he kind of just introduced him, like every episode he had that little bit of spark where you were like, oh okay, this is the Doctor. Like at the end of Space Babies, The Devil's Cord, there's probably quite a few scenes now that you could pick out. In this one it's just genuinely the whole episode, and obviously in Dot Bubble it's the ending. So like I think with him it's nice to have like more frequent moments of him just being really incredible. But yeah, he is a great actor. And Millie was also really good in this as well. But she
No,
didn't
she
remind me a
was.
lot of Clara.
I think. Yeah, I think at the start of the episode where the doctor tells her to like just leave him there, and she doesn't. That's kind of. It's just interesting because you kind of wouldn't. Of course, you wouldn't expect her to leave him there.
Yeah.
But this is the first time and one of the only times that Ruby as a companion just actively disobeys the Doctor.
Yeah,
and I feel like every companion needs that at some point to define themselves as an individual.
That is true. But you could also argue there's a bit of a critique there in terms of it kind of comes out of nowhere. But that is because we, for some reason, lost 6 months of character development from The Devil's Cord.
Which we addressed last time.
Yeah, we did address last time. But yeah, I think we could probably think about putting this somewhere in the tier list now.
Yeah.
Tier list time. I think it should probably go.
I'm thinking A.
Are you gonna? The thing is, I think if we're putting Devil's Cord in S, we have to put this in S because I think they're fairly equal.
Really? No, I don't think so.
We were just saying how there isn't much wrong with this episode.
No, the things wrong with this episode is Splice. A lot of the middle part where the tension just sort of dies down a bit.
Okay, yeah, I guess what were the main things we said that were bad about the Devil's Cord?
There doesn't have to be something actively bad about an episode for another one to be better about it. I just prefer the way that the Devil's Cord is structured.
But we can just put
the way it flows as an episode.
That is true, but we can just put. I think for the idea and the script, Boom does deserve to be S, but we can put it below Devil's Cord since I know it is your favourite. That's my compromise.
So we're thinking A then, are we?
Well, I think S personally. I think low S. I think we could always move it. Are we allowed to move it in later episodes, or is it stuck here?
I think there's one episode which will also end up in S, and I think you know the episode I'm talking about. And if we have 3 in S, then I don't think... We said last time that this tier list is a tier list for this series.
Yeah, this series. So this
on its own.
Yeah. So the S
and
tier.
And an S tier in this series is the Devil's Cord. I don't think this is an S tier for this series.
Oh, but it is really good though.
And I think the other one that will possibly be an S tier deserves it more than this one does.
Okay, let's put it A. This is gonna really, like, I don't think many people on, like, as a fan base would do this ranking as the same.
No, this is very strange. I mean, it's quite funny that we mostly have the same opinion.
Yeah,
on
I mean,
this,
I do
considering
really like
it's so
Devil's
different
Cord.
to the general fandom.
Yeah, we do have a similar perspective. I mean, I would put Boom in S, but it is your channel, so we'll put it in A. It can just be at the top of A. I don't think.
To be fair, you made me put Space Babies in D last time.
That is true. I did make you do that. All right, we'll go on to our next episode.
So 73 yards. Probably the most interesting episode of the series. I think.
Yeah.
There's so many different dimensions to this episode that are both good, bad,
I think
just completely nonsensical.
I think the majority of the episode is brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
I think my standout favourite scene was with Kate, and that 4-5 minute scene where she's just talking and then they move in on the woman. Kate gets like coerced or like, you know, indoctrinated, and then she leaves. I think that scene is just beautifully written as well as being really well shot. There's the shot just after Kate says disengage, and you see the shot on Ruby and the lights in her eyes aren't there, and it's a really good use of directing because it kind of symbolizes her, like, you know, it's almost like she's just died after losing her final chance at hope to like live a normal life. And it's just stuff like that where I was like, wow, this episode is like a film.
The directing in this series is brilliant.
Yeah, the directing
it's not quite Rachel Talalay, but it is getting there.
But yeah, this episode is one of my favourite of the series, despite it being a bit inconsistent in its explanations.
Yeah, I think when I say it's the most interesting, it's because it poses the most questions. And I
Yes.
remember when I first watched it, you and I disagreed on it quite a lot. And you thought it was like the best thing ever, and the ending was going to get explained in the finale.
Yeah, and then it just didn't.
And then it just didn't. And,
Yeah, and it has. If it got properly explained why she could time travel, then it would be fine, because you still have the sort of like mystery of, you know, why was the woman 73 yards, or, you know, why was she there's still mystery there if you just explain that ending a bit more. But I've read a lot of theories online about how the reason she time traveled was because the Doctor stepped on the circle, so the Doctor then, like, I don't know, just doesn't exist or something. Like, again, that was a bit too enigmatic. So then she has to, like, stop. So that released, like, Mad Jack, who became Roger William. She stopped him, which means at the point of her death, she can go back in time and live a normal life. I think that's kind of the point. So it's like magic, basically. So I don't know what your sort of headcanon is for the explanation, but that's my thing.
Well, I just think that it's something to do with the circle, and the thing the Doctor steps on obviously triggers something.
Yes.
And that just uses Ruby as a way to sort of stop itself, I suppose. But I don't understand why Russell says that this is like his best script ever, because
it's not. It's really good, but it just,
I don't know if I'd call it really good though, because the first half an hour I actually really enjoyed. When the Doctor disappeared, and I thought, okay, I'm really interested as to where this is going now. And
yes, the first
the scene in the pub was good.
Yeah.
When they revealed that they were just pranking her, I thought that was a little bit cheap. But
it felt a bit forced, as if all of them would be like onto it instantly without even like looking at each other, being like, "Oh, should we prank her?" It felt a little bit like, okay, but it was also shot beautifully and written pretty well. And I like the idea of how the fact that they thought it's a fairy tale and then it comes to life. That's quite a cool sort of concept. I do think the first 30 minutes of this episode is the best 30 minutes maybe of the series in terms of the writing and the directing, but then the ending, I agree with that, just, I think. But then the ending, I wouldn't say the ending is bad, but it loses its integrity for me. I just think if it was a tiny bit explained either in the finale, or maybe the woman in the pub said, like, gives a little bit of an explanation into the fairy tale and the fact that, you know, the person who steps on it, or the person who is
she sort of does.
But no, my point is, like, so she says that Mad Jack gets released and is unbound, but she never really explains, like, who's gonna stop Mad Jack. So obviously it's implied that Ruby is, right? But then it's like,
yeah, surely it should be the person who steps on it.
Yeah, that's what I don't get. It's like, why did the Doctor have to? Why did Ruby have to go through all that? The Doctor stepped on it. Is it because she opened the? Oh yeah, maybe it's because
she read the thing.
Yeah, she read the scripts. Or whatever. It is a really solid episode. I think it's one that is hard to critique, other than saying it could have been explained better, because everything else is brilliant. I love the stuff with Carla. I love the stuff with, like,
the only thing is with Carla is that they kind of make her evil twice. Like, okay, so in the Church from Ruby Road, the timeline gets changed, and then suddenly she's just not caring about anything. And then it happens again in 73 Yards. And when I watched, I know we're jumping forward a little bit, but when I watched The Legend of Ruby Sunday with my dad, he was like, well, doesn't she not like Ruby? Like, I swear she, like, went away. And I had to explain that was all in, like, an aborted timeline. And I feel like the fact that I had to do that kind of shows that they're kind of playing with that relationship a little bit too much.
Yeah, Russell just kind of did a similar idea. I just think he shouldn't have done that in the Church on Ruby Road, and then it would have had more impact here. Because we sort of knew, we're like, oh, we've seen this before. It kind of happened last time.
Yeah.
I think it's...
You're a lot more generous towards this episode than I am, I must admit. But I think that's because you liked it a lot more when you first watched it.
Yeah,
and
there
I was
is
just
stuff wrong with it,
confused.
but again, it's just my sort of genre. Like, I love mystery, horror style stuff, like Midnight as an episode. Although that is just brilliant anyway, despite the genre. But this episode for me is just kind of a standout in regards to like its writing and directing, on the most part anyway. But there are some issues. But
I just don't understand how the time travel thing works, and I feel like what you saying about the people in the pub, Russell does kind of write that so that the people in the pub are
they do
right
kind
without
of
knowing it, but
yeah,
the questions that we have, like the thing that the woman says to everyone that makes them run away, I like that we don't know that.
Yes,
I'm
I think
fine
that's
with
a good
that.
thing not to know.
Yeah.
Similarly to like why she's 73 yards. I think it's just I guess the reason is because you can't properly see what they look like from the human eye. But I like some of the ambiguity, if that's how you say it. Some of like the enigmas in there, but I just think there was a little bit too much in regards to why she could time travel. And I think if there was just a one-liner from the woman in the pub who gave a little bit more explanation than she already did, saying about how someone has to stop Mad Jack after he's unbound, and then
because it could be an actual legend that they've heard.
Yeah, because that's the point, isn't
and
it?
then
Like,
they just assume that it's just not true.
Well, yeah, that's what I thought it was. She was like reading she was just kind of saying a fairy tale that she got told as a kid or something, and then obviously it is actually true. That was kind of like what I interpreted from it. So I think if there was just a little bit more explanation as to why Ruby was the one to go through all of this for her whole life until she died, then it would have been a 10 out of 10. Because at the end of the day, what else is there actually wrong with it other than the ending? Is there much more wrong with it?
I feel like that problem with it is integral to the episode, and you can let it slide a little bit. But I just feel it's so important to the structure that you can't just say, "Oh, this is the one thing wrong with it," and stick it in A tier or whatever.
Maybe because it will get explained next year.
Maybe.
Like I said to you when I watched it. No, it's fine. It will probably get explained in the finale, right? It didn't. No, it's fine. It will probably get explained in the next series, right? No, it won't. I can tell it just won't get explained because the Doctor.
Russell, we're watching you.
Got him! Got him!
I do love, it's difficult really because I feel like
I think in general this series is really difficult to rank because the episodes have really good stuff and then annoyingly bad stuff.
I think Russell T Davies as a writer he's a brilliant writer, and he seems like a chill guy. Like, we have a lot to be thankful for. He brought back Doctor Who in 2005, and then
now
in
Max is about to critique him.
2023, I think if Russell didn't email the BBC saying, I can come back, then I think that the probability that Doctor Who would have been at least given a rest after Jodie Whittaker's regeneration, like the power of the Doctor would have ended just fading to black, and then Doctor Who would have been off the air for at least 5 years or something. I genuinely believe that's what would have happened, and so technically he did save it. So we have a lot to be thankful for.
Yes, we do have a lot to be thankful for, but
I
at
feel
the same
like
time,
with Russell, there are two things which you need to do in a script. I feel like I know everything, but I really don't. But in my opinion, with a script, you have two integral things. You have plot and you have character.
Yeah.
And Russell does both of those things really, really bloody well. But together, he does them a little bit
inconsistently,
weirdly.
maybe you could say.
He can't really do them together a lot of the time because he does it a lot in his first era. He balances out.
Yeah, I'd say his first era he was very good at it.
Yeah,
now he is good at it, but when we get on to talking about Dot and Bubble, we'll highlight the fact that the plot just gets kind of sidelined for the character stuff, and it's
the
kind
thing
of a
is,
similar
it happens in other episodes as well.
Yeah,
like in Space Babies, there's actually a decent balance. In The Devil's Call, the characters get sidelined for the plot. In Boom, there's a decent balance, but I think that's because it's Stephen Moffat. And then
you could even argue the characters, the plot gets sidelined for the characters at some point.
Well, you could.
I'd say that in the love.
I think it's fairly equal though.
Yeah, it's fairly equal.
And then in 73 Yards, the plot absolutely gets sidelined for the character.
But in fairness, the character is the plot. Like, the plot is Ruby.
But so it's not, though. Because it's to do with the circle, and it's to do with Roger Aptwilliam, and how that all works.
Yeah, I'd say
like, I get that it's all about Ruby, but you need to explain what's actually happening to her, and what outside thing from the circle is actually impacting her life, and how she's able to time travel back and all of that stuff. Because I get that it's a fairy tale, and I get that it's all,
Yeah, I agree. I think
but you need to. The thing about this episode is, it's almost like a really, really weird dream that you've had, and then you remember it, and it just doesn't make any sense.
That is a great way to put it, to be fair.
No, but it is, because with the final scene where old Ruby's in the bed.
Yeah, she dies, right? Because of the sound in the background. It goes like
and
that.
And then the woman gets towards her. Suddenly.
Yeah, she gets closer.
I thought, I don't like this. I was actually kind of scared, genuinely, when that
it was really well
again the directing,
done.
The shadow around the woman, and then when Ruby is just in her bed, scared.
Yeah,
and then suddenly really it all goes to black, and I just thought.
And
this is terrifying.
It was really good, and obviously you then get the beginning scene again, but Ruby says, "I've been here 3 times now," and obviously the doctor's like, "Oh, so what's the 3rd time?" And then she's like, "Now," and it's like hinting that she remembers
was quite
it.
clever.
That was really nice. Oh dear, this is difficult because I agree that the main issues with of this episode aren't that there aren't many, but they are impactful.
Yeah.
But I'd probably put it in A.
Really?
I think it is worthy of A. For the considering we did say the first 30 minutes is peak Doctor Who, it's the best Doctor Who we've had the whole series. 30 minutes out of 45 is quite a lot. Admittedly, the ending falls a bit flat, but it's still not terrible. There's headcanons for it, there's reasons. There's
but theories. I don't want to have headcanons. This is the thing. I want to have genuine explanations. This is the problem with me. I used to have so many. I used to be fine with having headcanons for things. I used to be able to be fine with the Timeless Child and things like that, because I can make it work in my head. But I'd rather not do that. Because I'd rather just have a genuine answer.
But
which I'm satisfied
if we
with.
compare, because a lot of people online compare this episode to Midnight. Midnight has the right balance of mystery. Would you agree? It's the main mysteries are who is the entity, how did it get into the ship, and all that stuff.
Midnight's just perfect.
Yeah. Whereas this episode almost has too many questions, and I think because they don't get explained in this episode or the finale, you kind of just. You're trying to answer one question, and then it leads on to another one, and then another one, and then another one.
But the thing is, with Midnight, the questions that are in it, what is the entity, and what does it want, and things like that, that's fine, because it's not something that you need for the plot to work.
Yes.
Whereas but the thing 73 yards is the questions that are there. The questions that are there, what does the woman say? You don't need to explain that.
Yeah, no, that one's fine as a question.
But things like time travelling back. You need to have that question answered.
That is true, but if you just use a headcanon and be it's because of the whole circle, which it is, it's not really a headcanon, it is to do with the circle, we just don't understand what it is or how it works. So I think oh man, I want to put it in A. It can go bottom of A, it can go below Boom if you want, but I think realistically I get the feeling we might end up putting another, we're going to end up putting one of these other ones in B. And I think putting one of these other ones on the same level as 73 Yards is a little bit of a disservice to how perfect the first 30 minutes is.
Okay.
So I'd put it low A. If things change, we might move it down, but...
The thing is,
really
I think there are some episodes here that I actually like prefer more. Like, hold on, I'm just gonna put that in order. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I rewatched Dot and Bubble this morning, and I'm not gonna lie, I do kind of enjoy it more than 73 Yards, and I don't think we're gonna end up putting Dot and Bubble in A. But then, that we'll see next podcast. But
Yeah, we'll change things around if we need to. But I think, what's funny is those top three, like our 1, 2, 3 goes Devil's Core, Boom, 73 Yards. The majority of the fan base would swap those around and go 73 Yards, Boom, Devil's Core.
I think most people would end up putting the Devil's Core in B.
Yes,
or
C.
I'm kind of disappointed by that, but then,
yeah, I am disappointed in the fans for that because it is actually really good. Okay, well, a bit of a disagreement, but that's kind of the point, isn't it, of having two people discussing it, because it's trying to balance the boat like opinions.
Okay, well, join us next week for our podcast on Dot and Bubble and Rogue, and see where we're going to stick that in the tier list. And
thank you for watching.
Yeah, thanks for watching, and goodbye for now.